bids are in. The gavel is dropped. Ladies and gentlemen, here at WineBid, we are finally hammered. That's right. This is WineBid podcasting at all things wine value, wine retail, wine auctions, and just wine. My name is Jeff McGurn on the WineBid marketing team. With me, as always, is Paul Walker, our expert on wine, lovingly known the worldwide as the Kaiser of Claret. That's right. Paul
You're starting to repeat some of your terms now.
I've never used the Kaiser of Claret. Have I?
Terminology. You said Kaiser before. Yeah, you're mixing up letters. You're starting with different letters, and you're not using a letter alliteration in your description.
I'm just going by what people call you. So today,
not an expert. I'll just start with that.
Today's a very.
What are we starting with? Tell me we're starting with something different today.
All right, we're starting with something different. Today's a very special episode because today, like this week, we have a ridiculous amount of German wine coming into auction. Normally, we'll get like...
In auction. It's in auction right now.
It came into auction. It came into auction this week. Normally, when it comes to German wine, we'll get like, 20, 30, 40, 50 bottles in, right? And 50 would be a lot. This week, we have over 600 lots coming into auction. So probably over 1,000, I don't know how many bottles. I haven't counted how many bottles, but over 600 lots. A lot of these lots have multiple bottles. It is like a who's who.
A lot of lots. It is a lot of lots.
It's a lot of lots. It's a lot of lots and a lot of big lots. Trademark. Just kidding. Please don't sue us. But anyway, I'm going to jump right into it because there's stuff that's very reasonably priced. And then there's some stuff that's like super hard to find and on the higher end, which we don't see a lot of. But right off the bat, let me just say there is a ton of Jojas Prum, a ton of JJ Prum coming to auction. There's like 75 different lots of JJ Prum that have come into auction this week, including a bunch of mags that I have my eye on, like 2015 Bernkastler, Le Riesling, Aus, Lese Gold Capsule. There's a bag of that for 3 mags of that for 140. A couple of splits from 99 of their Vellener Sonnenur Riesling Auslese and a Baron Auslese for 190 and 200 respectively. But just a bunch of really cool JJ Prum stuff. A bunch of stuff from like Keller, Dalsheim, some Spätburgunder, Trocken, Grosses Gewachs for 190.
What did you say? I think you meant to say Kessler, right?
Keller Dalsheimer.
Yeah, well, not to be confused with the other Keller. There's August Kessler Pinot Noir in here too, but then there's a lot of Keller wines as well.
There's also Keller Moorstein, Keller Niersteiner. There's Keller Peace Sporter.
Yeah, I should also specify that a lot of these wines are coming from a single collection, and this is apparently a private collection. I actually almost assumed that it was somebody in the trade, but apparently it's not. And it's very important to note that there are some Grosser Ring auction bottles that are designated. Actually, some people are going a little crazy.
There's a ton of auction bottles.
They are quite rare. A lot of these are quite rare. So it's actually kind of an astounding collection all in one, in one auction of like the breadth of all these different producers. You mentioned JJ Prum. There's a lot of Donhoff. There's Forstmeister. There's like an amazing selection of Egon Müller. I don't think I've ever seen this much Egon Müller in one auction.
A ton of Egon Müller and a bunch of different Donhoffs. There's the H Don, but a bunch of different like types of Donhoff. Von Schubert, Robert Weil, Forstmeister. There's
a bunch of Peter Lauer too.
Bunch of Peter Lauer.
Yeah, which we often see bottles of the sparkling wine and I didn't even check. I just selected a couple. I selected an Auslese and a Spätlese because they were actually quite reasonable. So there's everything under the sun, literally. There's and the prices are just
the prices are all over the place. I mean, it's like all over like $25 for amazing stuff from great producers, all the way to like $11.50 for that Keller Peace Porter from 2018.
G-Max, the G-Max is big money. It's always.
The G-Max is big money. There's Whitman, Weingut, Clemens, Vollenweider, Wolfer. I mean, it is literally, it's just a who's who of Riesling, like tons of amazing stuff. I'm personally am in this quite a bit with a lot of bids, just based off of like all this good stuff.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
It really is. Like, so talk to me about a few of the things you've got your eye on. Like I have a list of like 50 things that I'm like, I wanted to mention, like just,
yeah, I mean, I think we would probably start boring people with descriptions and vineyards and everything. But like I said before, there's, like Egon Miller wines are never inexpensive. And I don't think you're not going to find one that's inexpensive, but you can spend $580 on a mag of Auslese, auction Auslese, or, you can also spend like a lot less, 120 on some 18 cabinets. And again, $120 is a lot of money for a cabinet, but it's Egon Muller and there's a bunch of it in.
You can get 18 Spätleses for 100.
Yeah, I mean, there's examples that are less. Obviously, the auction bottles always catch my eye, and I did flag some of the Alta Rieben auction wines that, again, whenever I say auction, I'm referring to the grosser ring designation that are special selections that are sold at this particular auction that they have each year in Germany, not our auction, not speaking about WineBid. Anyway, yes, you're right. There's like Spätlese number 618 for 170, but then there's the Alta Riesling cabinets for 245 for these auction bottles, which I selected. I selected there's a bunch of Alsaces actually from Forstmeister Geldsiliken that are not terribly expensive. A 19 Auslese number 3 that's $35. There's half case of those. Again, I'm sure there's bids on a lot of these because
there's a 14 Auslese from Forstmeister for $40. Actually, sorry, it's got 4 bids on it. It's up to 49.
So
there's a 19 cabinet mag for $70, which I was like, that's actually pretty good.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and that's not particularly rare or as interesting as some of the other Grosse Skivvox bottlings or auction bottlings, but it's not terribly expensive. So there are a lot of interesting deals. I did see this 14 Donhoff Hermannsholle Riesling Grosse Skivvox. I've actually never had this wine before, and I was like, oh, sweet, but started to get bids at 71. And I'm sure it's going to go up from there. It's also 10 years old, so it's got a little bit of time on it. It's probably quite delicious right now, but for something like that, it didn't seem too bad. I saw there was a number 19 auction Auslese from 2019, half bottles for 120. Looked interesting. Another 14 Grosse Skivvox Hermannsholle Riesling for 70. Didn't see any bids on those yet, but I'm sure there will be. Yeah, you mentioned JJ Prum. There's a Magnum of cabinet, a couple mags actually of cabinet number 3 for 80. Didn't think were too bad. The Keller wines, obviously very, very collectible. However, there's some gold capsule Auslese half bottles for $35, or at least there were a couple days ago, and that's from the Apps Erde designation. There's also, like you mentioned, there's the Pinot Noir, there's Grosse Skivvox Spätburgunder for 190, 14s for 160, and then all the other serious wines, a bunch of other Grosse Skivvox Magnums starting at about 400 and going up from there. Then I also tagged actually this, what was it again? Oh yeah, an Okonomirat wine that I hadn't seen in a long time. Another Grosse Skivvox that wasn't terribly expensive. It was 65 at least last I checked. And Reinhold Hart wines, I found a couple of those to be quite reasonable. Some Auslese auction bottles actually at 30 for half bottles, which I didn't think again was very much. Even there's even some Auslese half bottles for 25. So again, across the board, a lot of things. Von Hobel, Willi Schaefer's as well, Von Schubert. A lot of those Von Schubert wines are actually pretty steep, not cheap for those, but they have a big following these days.
Not all of them are expensive. There's a 97 Von Schubert for Riesling cabinet for $65.
Yeah,
8 of them. There's a 2010.
Yeah, it's
Auslese for $30.
Yeah. it's a lot of label specific, a lot of label specific stuff.
Yeah, it's very label specific. I guess my only point is look, you've got it running the gamut. Like you can really get Grosses Gewachs for inexpensive. You can get some expensive ones. Like it just really runs the gamut. But this is an opportunity that if you're super into German wine, if you're super into Riesling, like there's so much cool stuff here at all ends of the spectrum for you to get in on. And so many producers we just don't see come to auction very often, right? Like
no, especially in this quantity.
Especially in this quantity.
Yeah.
Right. Like there's like tons of Willi Schaefer, tons of Keller Westhofen, tons of, there's a bunch of these, like Keller Riesling vintage collections, right? We have a bunch of those, which are cool. The JJ
Julian Hart wines are super, super hot too. I don't know if you notice this, but like there's a couple of Julian Hart wines from this collection that are on fire. A cabinet number 22, which started at 50, and there's 15 of them, and they are already bid up to $100 a piece, all 15. So there's stuff that people are aggressively pursuing, which is it's always cool to see that.
Yes, I mean even at the low end, like they're Julian Hart wines. Like he has some PS Porter for like it was $35. Well, they all have bids that are up to 38, right? Some 2016, some Spätlese that were 35 up to 38. But at the same time, like that's not a crazy amount to pay, even $40, $50 for some of these wines that are so rare that you just rarely see them at auction, let alone at retail or anywhere in the US. Certainly like go find me a place that's got these on their wine list, a restaurant. I can think of like one or two places that would have this type of wine. Like these things are crazy. In fact, I would be shocked if you don't have some high-end restaurants out there that specialize in cuisine that's really accented nicely by Riesling that aren't bidding on these things. Because again, you just like you said, we just don't see this stuff, especially not like at all these different price points, all these different producers, all these different vintages. Exceedingly rare. Exceedingly
it's pretty exciting, and it's definitely going to be fun to see. And I mean, talking about like these Julian Hart wines, I don't think any of them are going to remain after the first week. It looks like they're all going to be sold. So
for sure, there's 0% chance these wines are remaining. I mean, maybe two. We're like,
I mean, they're probably, bigger name stuff you'll be able to find, I would imagine, after, a week or two. But for the most part, I don't think so.
These things are all getting purchased. We've got 9 minutes left, Paul. Walk us through Burgundy this week. Let's talk a little bit.
No, for sure, because there's also a phenomenal batch of Burgundy from this same collector as the German wines as well. There's some nice Rhone wine in there too, but I did want to point out the breadth of Burgundy. There's some fantastic Rousseau wines, Armand Rousseau wines, Grand Crus, Premier Crus, multiple bottles of each. I think there's only one each of the 17 and 18 Chambertin, but there's not a lot of that to go around as it is. There's some Arnaud Bourgogne Blanc that looks like at 235, a lot to kind of deal with there, but it's expensive stuff, and that's a relatively inexpensive way to get into Arnaud. There's a really nice batch of Camille Rude wines, Corton, Chambertin, Le Vaux Saint-Jacques, and Normandy-Suchot. There's some Caroline Moret wines, which are always super, super hot. Trio of 19s from Caroline Moret, but there's multiple bottles of each. Kind of interested to see where those go. I'm sure they'll all sell as well. There's 93 Comte d'Armand Pommard Clos d'Épinal. That wine's probably finally ready to drink now. A bottle of that at 200. There's 05 Foguet Bonne Mar. There's some older Daniel Rion wines, which don't see too often, and they're not actually that expensive. There's a 83 Rion Nuit Saint-Georges Les Vignes Rondes at 65, and also an 83 Beaumonts, 7 of them for $80. Usual Chablis auction specialty. There's some Dauvissat Camus, 96 Steady Mortage over Chambertin Le Vaux Saint-Jacques at 350. There's this Domain and Selection Costerie Meursault Magnum 09 for 880, and it's the Domain and Selection label, but it's from Costerie. An interesting bottle. We don't see those too often. They don't go for as much as the standard Costerie labels. bunch of nice Bachelet I had to flag. I was really excited about those. Let's see. There's a bunch of Domaine de Monty, all from great vintages to 05, 09, and 99. The Pomards, the Volnays, there's Corton, Clos Vougeot, all kinds of stuff. A bunch of Dujac, Charmes, Clos de la Roche, Clos Saint-Denis, Maurice Saint-Denis, a bunch of Fourier, again, Clos Saint-Jacques, Boulot, Jovet Chambertin, Old Vine, and then Griot Chambertin as well. Multiple bottles of most of the Premier Crus, a bunch of, or a handful, I should say, of Mounier wines from 2010 and 12. So nice little bit of time on those wines. There's some Lamy 2012. I noticed actually already has bids. The Santa Mandaria Chez Edouard Cuvée Haute Densité, which is pretty serious stuff at 570. They've got bids on them. Some beautiful Domaine Lefleuve wines, Méo Camazé, Mourget, and Brûlé. There's some really nice Ponceau going back to 1988. Actually, didn't think that was terribly expensive. There's some Maurice Saint-Denis, Clos de Montluison for $62, at least last I checked. 05 Chevillon wines, some really nice wines from New Saint-Georges there. 78 Domaine Rougeot Volnay Saint-Antonin, I thought was really interesting. 3 of those for, they were last had bids at 76. I didn't think that was crazy. 2010 Rouleau Merceau Narvaux. Some really nice wines from Freddie Meunier, Les Fouets, multiple vintages, 05, 10, and 18. 13 Musigny. Some Jacques Carillon wines, 2010 Chassagne Mascherel, and 2010 Pouligny Montrachy Perrier. Also, I skipped over another Rouleau Merceau 09. Some really nice Drouhin wines as well. Bunmar from 05. Let's see, Amoreuse Magnum from 09, which is really cool. Charme Chambertin 09 Mag, and Von Romany Petit Mon, a tiny little section of Von Romany, a Magnum of that from 09, which I don't believe I've seen in recent memory. Some Clos Saint-Jacques from Jadot. Some more Lemoine wines came in as well from this collection with the German wines. Also some Machard de Gramont Beaune and also Louis Saint-Georges from 76 and 85 respectively. Actually, a full case of that 85 Louis Saint-Georges Les Eaux Poirées, which is kind of cool, and $85 for those. So I didn't think that was crazy from a mid 80s, great vintage in the mid 80s, or let's say relatively good vintage for Burgundy, but still collectible, a lot of time on it and not terribly expensive. So a bunch more d'Angevy Volnays came through this week. I think we mentioned some last week, but there's a Magnum of Clos de Duc 2012, which is pretty wild. And a bunch of Michel Lafarge wines, the Beaune Grève, as well as the Volnay Col de Chêne and Chateau de Duc and Miton. So all kinds of great Lafarge in this week. Multiple bottles of everything, it looks like, of everything. And then kind of rounding it out, there's some Pierre's Colombe Merceau. There's some Florent de Merode Corton Bresson 83. And then 05 Catillard Nuit Saint-Georges Mourget. So yeah, just a really amazing batch of stuff this week. Really, really impressive. So yeah, like Jeff said, I think 671 lots of German wines. Just quite amazing. Quite amazing.
I'm in heaven. I love Riesling. I'm in heaven.
Yeah, now this is the week to find those.
That's right. And with that just about wraps up our episode covering Germany and Burgundy for this week. This has been Jeff McGirt and Paul Walker from WineBid's Finally Hammer, wishing you happy bidding and cheers.
Cheers.